What you're seeing are leaked images from Russian sources that show something disturbing. A Chinese laser defense system. Known as Silent Hunter, this weapon is being used to shoot down Ukrainian drones on the front line. This fiber optic laser has extraordinary power, somewhere between 30 and 100 kilowatts. In other words, it can destroy targets at 4 kilometers away. And it can pierce 5 2-millimeter steel plates at 800 meters. And what about Russia? Well, they've been using this Chinese technology since October of last year. Yes, you heard that right. Chinese lasers are literally shaping the battlefield in Ukraine, but there's something even more concerning happening. Something that goes far beyond just shooting down drones, because while these lasers destroy targets in Ukraine, Chinese lasers have been used to do something different. They are aiming directly at Western military aircraft pilots. Imagine flying over international waters when your cockpit is flooded by a blinding green light. Your eyes burn, your vision blurs, and for terrifying seconds, you can't see the instruments. And this, my friends, is no mere accident. It's a message, and I'm going to explain exactly what it means. The date was July 2nd, 2025. A German surveillance aircraft was on a patrol mission over the Red Sea, on board a Beechcraft King Air. A German military crew was operating the aircraft contracted from a civilian company. The mission was part of the European Union's Operation Aspides, which was specifically created to protect commercial ships from attacks by Houthi rebels from Yemen. It was a routine mission, or at least it was supposed to be. But then something happened that changed everything. A Chinese warship fired a military laser directly at the German aircraft. But in this case, it was different. They didn't fire the laser to destroy like what happens in Ukraine. The intention was different: to intimidate, to blind, to send a message. And this was done without any prior warning, without provocation, without any emergency communication. The German crew had to abort the mission immediately and return to the base in Djibouti as a safety precaution. Right after the incident, the Germans reacted furiously. The German Ministry of Foreign Affairs classified the act as completely unacceptable. The Chinese ambassador was summoned to provide clarification. The European Union, in turn, acted in full solidarity by also summoning the Chinese ambassador and treating the incident as a direct affront to a collective European operation. And do you want to know what China's reaction was? Well, they denied everything. They said that Germany was lying. They claimed they didn't even have ships in that area of the Red Sea. Two completely different versions of the same reality. And here's the problem. That wasn't the first time. Actually, this has happened before. And before that, too. In 2018, in the same region near Djibouti, China was accused of using lasers against American military aircraft. The result? 2 pilots of a C-130 suffered minor eye injuries. In 2022, a Chinese warship directed lasers at a Royal Australian Air Force patrol aircraft in the Arafura Sea. And here's the important detail. This happened within Australia's own exclusive economic zone, that is, in Australian waters. Now, in 2025, it was Germany's turn in the Red Sea during an official European Union mission. Do you see the pattern? These are not isolated incidents or overly zealous ship commanders. It's as if they're following a manual, a methodology that repeats itself with military precision. First comes the laser, then the categorical denial, followed by the counter-accusation that the Western aircraft was provoking or acting dangerously. This kind of practice isn't something new and even has a name in modern military vocabulary. It's called gray zone warfare. Gray zone warfare is simple, carrying out attacks without starting a real war. It's about making everything confusing on purpose. In Ukraine, we've seen Chinese lasers destroying drones in a clear and direct way. That's an obvious military use. But in the Red Sea, there we're seeing something completely different. It's something more subtle and much more dangerous for global stability. In this sense, military lasers are perfect for this strategy. And do you want to know the reason? Because technically, they are not classified as lethal weapons under international law. United Nations Protocol 4 prohibits lasers made specifically to blind people. But here's the legal loophole that China exploits. The protocol allows lasers that cause incidental blindness when targeting optical equipment. So we have the perfect loophole for China to defend itself. They can simply claim they weren't aiming at the pilots. They were aiming at the aircraft's sensors. Any damage to the pilot's eyes would just be a side effect, not intentional. In other words, creating confusion in the laws on purpose is taking advantage of loopholes in global rules. As you can see, China isn't breaking the laws, it's exploiting the loopholes with surgical precision. But why are they doing this right in the Red Sea? Why has this specific region become the stage for these Chinese shows of force? The answer lies in global economic geography. The Red Sea, together with the Suez Canal, forms one of the most vital trade arteries on the planet. 12% of all global trade passes through this route. If this passage is blocked or disrupted, the global economy feels the impact immediately, and China understands this better than any other nation. Since 2017, China has maintained its first overseas military base in Djibouti, strategically positioned in the Horn of Africa. Officially, it's to combat piracy and support humanitarian missions. In practice, it's pure power projection. This base allows China to monitor and potentially control one of the most important maritime routes in the world. But there's more. This region is the absolute heart of China's Belt and Road Initiative, also known as the New Silk Road. China has invested billions of dollars in port infrastructure throughout the region. From the port of Doraleh in Djibouti to the Suez Canal Economic Zone in Egypt. For the Chinese, protecting these maritime communication lines is not just a commercial matter. It's a matter of life or death for China's security. And now, there is a European naval force operating right in this strategic area. The Aspides operation we mentioned earlier is not just intended to fight the Houthis. It's the European Union trying to prove that it can act as an independent security power without relying entirely on the Americans. It's a test of what's being called European strategic autonomy. And for China, this poses a very uncomfortable question. And what if one day this European force decides to interfere with Chinese interests? And as you can see, they're already sending an early message with a laser. But do you want to know why this message is so dangerous? Because pointing a military laser at an aircraft is like firing a camera flash directly into a driver's eyes on a dark road at night. The result is immediate disorientation, temporary blindness, and after images that can last for several minutes. For a pilot in flight, this can be absolutely fatal. High-powered lasers, like the ones China has, can cause permanent damage to the retina, leading to partial or total blindness. In addition to the risks for the crew, these modern surveillance aircraft rely entirely on precision electro-optical sensors for navigation, target identification, and intelligence gathering. A laser can overload and permanently burn out these sensors. This not only compromises the specific mission, but can also affect critical navigation and flight safety systems. That is why using lasers against aircraft is considered a crime in most countries around the world. It's not a military prank. It's an action that puts human lives at risk. What we're witnessing is something completely new. China is globalizing its gray zone tactics. What started as regional behavior in the South China Sea, in waters that China claims as its own, is now happening in international waters around the world. China is systematically testing how far it can go. It is testing Western reactions. It is trying to establish a new normal, where acts of military intimidation become acceptable as long as they technically remain below the threshold that would trigger a conventional war. And here is the question that should concern all of us. If China is willing to do this in the Red Sea, on one of the busiest and most monitored trade routes in the world, what will happen when they feel even more confident? What will happen when they reach the Atlantic or the Mediterranean? We are witnessing the birth of a new kind of global conflict. A conflict where making everything confusing is not by accident. It's exactly the plan. A time when we can no longer tell if we are at peace or at war. And this, my friends, could be just the beginning of something much worse. Now, I want to know your opinion. How should the West respond to these Chinese gray zone tactics? Are diplomatic protests alone enough? Or do we need a stronger response? Leave your opinion in the comments. If you found this content useful, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share this video. Each share helps more people understand what's really happening in the global geopolitical scene. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.